Hi everyone, and welcome to this spotlight. This spotlight, we are focusing on World Suicide Prevention Day. I'm not sure if you realise, but September the 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day. What we're going to talk about today is I'm going to bring up some interesting statistics that you may not have been aware of around mental health and suicide. We're going to talk about how to have those difficult conversations and how to set them up so that you can approach people if you feel like you need support or help. And also, if you see someone who you think that you want to connect with, but you're not sure how to, or you want to provide support to people around you, what are some different ways that you can do it? I found some great information online that I want to share with you guys. I found some really interesting statistics from RUOK Foundation. The more that I've become involved or look into RUOK, the more that I've found interesting in the work, some of the work that they do, because they do a fair bit of research amongst supporting mental health, and it was really interesting because they were looking into people who didn't seek help, who were feeling like they needed support, and they wanted to find out what it was that made people reluctant to seek help. And they said that 40% of people who didn't seek help said that they didn't do it because that they didn't think it was serious enough to talk about. And 28% of people who didn't seek help said that they were embarrassed to talk about their problems with other people. 18% of people who didn't seek help said that they didn't because they didn't think the other person wanted them to say that they were not okay. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? And 14% claimed it was for other reasons. So it's interesting, isn't it, just to think about some of the reasons why people actually don't say that they aren't okay if they're not feeling or they're feeling like they need support. Some of the other statistics or things that I've seen out there are interesting, and another research that I saw through the Black Dog Institute, and they were looking at future-proofing, and it was looking into high schools and students. They followed for 5 years. So this was like a longitudinal study and looking into youth mental health. And the first data set snapshot of what is really happening and looking at what children in year 8 were like and what was impacting them. And they were looking at depression. And they found that 31.6% of year 8 students had significant psychological distress. 18.6% had severe symptoms of anxiety. 15.1% had severe symptoms of depression, and 4.9% had high levels of suicidal ideation. So, the impact of depression, this is more than just a low mood, and that's how they describe it. And that's when depression really occurs. It's significantly impacting our younger children these days, a lot more than what it did in previous generations. And it can have adverse and consequences much more significant than what we realise and what we'd like for our younger kids to have. And it really affects so many different aspects of their lives, ranging from their academic success to their socialisation through to emotional development, and physical aspects as well, really. So it's such a worry when we think about all the problems that could potentially happen with that. So what I wanted to talk about now, after all of that doom and gloom, is just to go through and have a look at a little conversation starter that I found on Reach Out. And it was a really good little thing that I found on LinkedIn the other day. So I saved it so that I could have a little chat with you guys about it. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can have a look at what I'm talking about. So if we have a look here, so what this is that this is 5 steps to talking to someone that you trust. So basically, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling down and you're feeling low, you're feeling depressed, and you feel like you want to reach out to someone and have that conversation, that you're feeling like you're not okay, and you want to find someone that you trust to have that conversation with, this is 5 steps to talking to that person and generating that conversation. So this is from Reach Out. So this is a really good site that's going to give you some great steps to be able to do that. So first step really would be to decide who to talk to. So have a think about who that best person is to give you the support that you need. So it's got to be someone who, is a stable force, within your close circle. If it's someone that you can rely on, someone that is there for you, is a good support. If it's a family member, maybe a parent or a sibling or an aunt or an uncle or someone, a friend who is very close to you that you can trust to open up and be able to have that conversation with. So decide who you're going to talk to first. And then step 2, before you even have that conversation with a person, is to work out what you're going to say. So sit down and have a think about what you're going to say, maybe even sit down and write out what you're going to say first before you say it, so that you get clear in your mind what you're going to say first. I think it's a really good idea just to do that and write it out in sequential steps, so that when you go to say it, you're really clear about what you want to say when you say that. It also helps to be able to, release a little bit of emotion as well, because sometimes emotion can kind of cloud that message, and things can be a little bit unclear if emotion is involved within our message when we're trying to talk to someone. Step 3 is make sure that we ensure that the time is right to have that conversation. They're not rushing out the door on their way to work. They're not in the middle of cooking dinner or something like that. Make sure that you set a special time to speak to that person. Maybe even ring them up or send them a message and just say, I'd really like to speak to you. Can we organise a time to sit down and have a conversation? So set some time apart to have that conversation, so that when you do sit down and speak, that you have their undivided attention. You can sit together, you can connect properly within that conversation. Because if the person is distracted, if there's a lot of other people around, then you're not going to be able to have that conversation. And it's really, really important to make sure that you set that environment and set that right time to have the conversation, so that the message, gets across to that person in the right way. How to have the conversation. So make sure that, you've done all your groundwork before you go in and have the conversation, because that's really important. So you've set out exactly what you're going to say. You've got it all organised in your head. You've calmed yourself and you've relaxed before you sit down and have the conversation with the person, and you've got the environment right and the time is right, and then you sit down and have that conversation. So make sure that you do that. And then when you're talking to someone about a really difficult topic, make sure that when you let that person know what you're talking about, let them know that you're talking about how you feel and what's going on for you at the time, and and that you're asking for help or you're asking for support, or if what you're doing is that you're just asking them to support you, and you just want them to listen, you don't want any advice, then make that clear. So make sure that your message is clear in what you want within that conversation. So just make sure either way with what you want to do that you're just clear in that. And step 5, make sure that if you're not getting the support that you need there, don't give up. Keep going. Maybe find someone else that will help you and give you the support that you need. Reach out to another person. It's really important that we keep connection with people these days. I think that we spend so much time, on the computers, on internet, without that social interaction. So make sure that you spend some time just reaching out to other people. And if you feel like you haven't got that connection that you wished you had from that person, don't give up, try again with someone else, and make sure that you really, don't give up with that and keep going. So that's a really nice way of setting up a conversation. So that also can be used if you're concerned about someone else and you want to offer support to someone else. You can do that conversation in the reverse way as well. So you can, decide if you want to talk to someone and offer support to them, then these 5 steps you can take in the reverse way. So that's always a good thing there. So it's a really nice reminder just to look around and look out for all the people that are around you and make sure that everyone's okay, because on World Suicide Prevention Day, we want to make sure that we keep those numbers down, because even one less is a win, really, isn't it?